It is Wednesday here on the Desmond Johnson Show. So, of course, it is high school football preview, and it's a spectacular supersized edition. Marc Pruitt joining me from the Winston-Salem Journal, prep beat writer. We got a loaded show for you. Marc's Big Three as we start the first round of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's state football playoffs for all classifications. That's this Friday. Tobacco Road looks like we're going to have 3 games for you. We'll tell you the 3 games that we're going to have broadcasting for you live on Friday night. Got some guys coming through you might be a little familiar with. Forsyth head coach Kevin Wallace will be stopping by, as well as Walkertown head coach Tripp Honeycutt and Northern Guilford head coach Erik Westburg. So we've got a loaded show. We're getting ready for the playoffs. It's phase 3, as a lot of coaches call it around the area here, and it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and figure out who's going to be the 4 state champions in North Carolina. Without further ado, let's go. It's the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city needs that. I've been number 1, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And it is the Desmond Johnson Show. It's a Wednesday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show, and it's a super-sized one here Wednesday, November 13th, 2024, as we get ready for the first round of the North Carolina High School Association state football playoffs for 2022. My partner in crime on Wednesdays, Marc Pruitt in the house from the Winston-Salem Journal. And Marc, like I mentioned before, we got a loaded show. Kevin Wallace has already pulled up to the green room in the back. He's sitting back there waiting. We've got Erik Westburg, head coach at Northern Guilford, is going to be stopping by, and Walkertown head coach Tripp Honeycutt, who I've been playing tag with all year long, trying to get him on. He's going to be on as well. So before I bring those guys out, initial thoughts. The brackets came out on Sunday, finally, official brackets here. I'm going to pull them up in just a bit. I want to get your initial thoughts on your top 3 games here, as we do every Wednesday, in terms of what are the 3 games you're looking at here in the Triad as playoffs get ready to kick off.
3 I'm looking at. I'm kind of all staying in the CPC, and one is the CPC Metro kind of crossover game. But I think one of the games that really jumped out to me on that 4A bracket was Mount Tabor and Independence.
Oh, yeah.
Going to be a great matchup. Independence went to the, I think, 4th round last year, lost to Butler in the 4th round.
Knocked out East Forsyth in the 2nd round, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, up here in Kernersville.
Kid by the name of Jaden Jones. Remember that name?
I do. I do.
He's a junior this year, and he's kind of rushed for more than 2,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. So I think that's going to be a good matchup. Probably neither coach wanted to see the other in the first round of the playoffs. Independence is 9-1, Tabor 8-2. So that's going to be a fun one, and that's actually going to be the game that I go cover Friday night. See kind of how Snook and Jadon, Lane Albright, and that Mount Tabor defense can try to stop Jaden Jones, and then quarterback Justin Little is just as good, can hurt you both ways, running the ball and throwing the ball. So that's going to be a fun one, I think, Friday night.
And that one's kind of a battle of strengths because, again, you mentioned Jaden Jones, who's one of the top running backs, if not the top running back in the state. Besides, I get him and maybe Mitchell Summers over at Grimsley. I'd probably put 1A. But they're going up against a Mount Tabor team that's very stingy against the run. You know how Tyshawn Brown's defenses are. I haven't really seen a running back just kind of run wherever they want to on a Mount Tabor defense with Brown as the head coach. So that's kind of like 2 strengths clashing against each other. And then the winner probably draws Huff. So it doesn't get any easier. 4A West, man, it's just a gauntlet just right off the bat. Give me game number 2. This is nuts over here.
I think the mystique of East Forsyth and Butler intrigues me. Butler's down this year. I think they finished 4-6, but 4-1 in their conference, and lost kind of a close one to Independence the last week of the regular season. Butler went to the 4th round last year. Still got a great quarterback and a couple of really good players in that secondary that can get it. I'm pretty sure Coach Willard wasn't happy about this first round matchup either, but it is what it is, and it's looking like if things kind of play out the way I think they may, and not to jinx anyone, but we might have a CPC rematch in the second round next Friday.
Yeah, I've got feelings about that. I don't know if anyone involved with that, whether it's Coach Willard, Coach Wallace, Tobacco Road, like the school. I don't know if any of us are very pleased about that. I don't think any of us are like really like, oh, we get to play each other again. Like I think we kind of wanted to separate out a little bit, but
see other people, and I understand. Yeah. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but that was one thing that really stuck out when I was looking at the brackets Sunday.
You know the state knew what they were doing when they put this together. They did this a couple of years ago. I think they had East and West play. Yeah, they did. East and West played the final regular season game. It was Snows last year, and then they played the first round game against each other. So they played each other like 7 days apart or whatever. And
I remember texting Snow when those brackets came out, and I was like, I guess the NCHSAA has a sense of humor, and his reply to me was, "Run it back." Let's go.
Well, he I think ran away with it on that particular day. It ended up being Snow's last game he coached at West before he retired. Give me your third one here. So you got East Forsyth Butler, good one. Independence and Mount Tabor. So we got some CPC on 704 action going on here. What's your third one here before we bring in Coach Wallace?
Let's stick in the Triad. I like Reagan and Southeast Guilford. I think that's going to be an interesting one. Reagan, despite all the hits it's taken this year, you lose your running back before the season starts to a transfer. Your best player, Jacob Smith, quarterback, gets hurt on a win against Weds. So Josh McGee really had to come and reinvent that whole team this year, and it's really relied on a pretty good running game with a freshman running back and a senior running back splitting a lot of the carries. John Evans Jr., I think he's gone for about 900 yards this year. He's had a great season, and Jerry Summers is one of the great athlete players in the area. He plays wide receiver, he plays cornerback, he returns kicks. He's one of those kids that anytime he has the balls in his hands, he can run it, take it to the house. And the defense has been really good behind Leo Hausel-Radjicic. He's an all-conference player. I'm guessing he's probably going to make the all-area team that we're going to have in a few weeks. One of the leading tacklers in the CPC is a middle linebacker, just a stud. He's just a junior, so he's got another year to go. But I really kudos to Coach McGee for kind of keeping that group together. A fourth-place finish in the CPC gets them a home game because of that strength of schedule that they have playing against the other league teams, and they're really strong non-conference games against Grimsley, Marvin Ridge, and Mooresville, who they beat. So looking forward to that one too.
It's weird because I kind of feel like, and normally I wouldn't say this, but it feels like the 336 is actually the strong pocket this year going into these playoffs, as opposed to, it feels like some of the Charlotte schools are down. And I know Huff's still out there, and Indy's out there, and of course, Weddington's the defending champ, and they're undefeated, so it's kind of weird for me to say it. But it feels like the meat of the West 4A has been up here this year, whether it's East Forsyth, West had a good year, Northern Guilford's had a great year, Grimsley's undefeated, they're the 1 seed in this whole thing. Mount Tabor's had a good year, Reagan's had a good year. Hell, even Western Guilford made the playoffs. Like, I mean, they're literally, there's a lot of Metro and CPC teams that got in here to fill up this West bracket. And I saw a graphic where I forgot the outlet. They were ranking like the top or the hardest playoff brackets across the country or whatever. And the West 4A, North Carolina, ranked number 10, like out of like all of them or whatever. And it's a gauntlet. You sit here and go through this, and you can kind of poke through it and go, well, you know, like Grimsley, for example, they drew Western Guilford for their first game, and they beat them by 40-something points on a running clock the first time they saw them. It's a Metro 4A matchup there. Winner that's going to end up playing Reagan or Southeast Guilford. You're not going to run into somebody until probably the third round, and even then, there's no talent. Palisades is a brand new school. Charlotte Catholic's in there. I mean, it's just there's no breaks. There's no easy week. Like
a lot of tradition programs, the names people know and recognize, they're strong. They've got the quality teams again. So I think that's what Palisades, you mentioned a minute ago. I think this is their third year. School. And already they're, I think they had the most wins in program history this year.
Makes me wonder if some kids that trickled over there maybe were supposed to be at Chambers or someplace else, one of these schools that are actually down this year that didn't get in. But Chambers was a powerhouse for a good 5-6 years.
I think they won back-to-back state titles a few years
back
ago.
4AA, yeah. I always joke with some 704 folks online. We're all in a Facebook group together. We all talk smack to each other and everything. And it's all good. It's all adults in there doing it. But I always joke with them because they always joke about East or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, every time Chambers was walking into Keenan to play their game, we were walking out, with a state championship, like both times. Like it was scheduled that way. So Chambers didn't make it this year, though. But Huff is in there. I don't think Huff has ever made it to a state championship game, have they?
No, I don't think
so. That's a glass ceiling they need to break. They have not won a state championship in football. And then you've got, your usual stuff. Northwest Guilford's lurking there as an 11 seed. That's a sneaky good team. In that bottom bracket down there with East Forsyth and West Forsyth. You got Northern Guilford down there as well. We'll have Coach Westburg on in just a sec. And, of course, the defending champ, Weddington's the 2 seed overall, and they're in the bottom of that bracket. I'm kind of hoping – I don't know. I don't know what I'm hoping. I'm just going to leave it wide open right now because it's there's so much to look at there. But let's start the train of guests coming in, starting off. He is the head coach of the West Forsyth Titans. They finished off their season, the regular season, 7-3 overall. They'll be taking on Cuthbertson. Am I saying that right? Cuthbertson. This Friday, and we will actually have that game. JP Mundy will be on the call live from the Village. You'll be able to hear that on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. It's West Forsyth and Cuthbertson. I can't say it. It's a 7:00 kickoff. Kevin Wallace in the house. What's up? What's going on?
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
So we made it to phase 3. So we're sitting here. West is 7-3. You guys have had a week off like everybody else. What have you been telling your kids in terms of keeping them mentally prepared? Because you guys were rolling as we got towards the end of the year, and you guys had that instant classic with East Forsyth at the end of the season. And I told your kids the last Titans talk we did 2 weeks ago. I got on the mic, was like, I was very impressed at what you guys did in terms of scheme and just kind of picking your spots. And you guys are very methodical as I watched you on offense in particular, in terms of just kind of poking, figuring out what's going to work, and then taking shots and actually hitting them. Riley Horton played a fantastic game that Friday night. What are you telling your kids heading into this first round matchup here against Cuthbertson? Am I saying that right, Marc? I'm not saying it right.
Cuthbertson.
Cuthbertson. Yeah, you should have just named it something. What are you thinking? What are you telling your kids?
I mean, we preaching them it's a whole new season. What we've done the last 10 weeks doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what we do every week now moving on. And trying to get them focused on, they're not going to come in and lay down. They got a stingy defense, and we got to go out and execute. Can we beat them? Yes, but we just can't sit here and think that they're going to come in and lay down for us, and try and overcome the whole complacency kind of thing, mindset a little bit. It was bouncing our kids back from that tough loss last week. And just basically telling them they got 2 ways to go. They can feel sorry for themselves and pack it in now and be done in the first round, or we can learn from our mistakes, finish a game, do what we have to do to improve and be a better team for this week and moving forward in the playoffs. So I thought the week off was good, I think, for coaches and players. We got to recoup a little bit. We got to rest up, get ready for the playoffs. And now we got to go out there and execute and hopefully continue what we've done the last couple of weeks on offense and defensively of getting better each week.
Marc?
I was out there last week one day, do our little thing with Riley. And he's really seemed to come on, especially the last couple of games, the East game, especially from 5 touchdowns. How have you seen his progression the last few weeks, especially now that it's crunch time? Now win or go home, basically.
I think he's starting to understand everything we've been preaching and it's starting to click. And I think we've seen that in the last couple of weeks on, strike points are what we call it, where balls got to be placed, depth on the field, landmarks, where we're throwing to on a receiver. I think he's seeing that. Like even last week, we kind of let Jarrell take a couple more team reps to give Riley a little bit of a break. And Riley was sitting back, ghost reps every time, what we call it, where he sits there and he doesn't have the ball, but he's going through his progressions or taking the steps and doing all that stuff. And, he's sitting there if Jarrell made a wrong read or didn't do something, and he's starting to see the big picture of it. Like, why didn't you pull it? Why didn't you pull the ball here? Why didn't you throw it here? What, stuff like that. So, the best form of knowledge is being able to teach it. And if he can sit there back there and do that, then he's really grasped the offense a lot. And each week for him, and I've told everybody, from recruiters, everybody, each week in the last, you can look back at AC Reynolds' game. If you want to go back to week 1 to where he's at now, he's gotten better every week.
Mm-hmm.
He's added something in every week. A lot. I want to say it was 4 weeks ago. Is the deep balls were just a yard or two farther, and we missed on a lot of them. And then we started executing on them, and he got the hang of it, of the height, the velocity, the depth, where we want the ball thrown, when we want the ball thrown, and all those little things that go into no one sees. And I think he's really bought into it all, and he takes well to coaches. So it's one thing that you can get on him, you could tell him this, and now he's starting to see it. Everything's starting to slow down for him a little bit.
He was hitting those deep balls last Friday against East Forsyth. I was on the call, so I was shocked as it was going on. So I was like, "Yo, this dude's like 6 yards down the field. Like, what's going on? There's no one covering this kid. What's happening?" But he really impressed me with that. Who would you say is your MVP of the regular season on offense and on defense right now?
Good question. Defense, I really still think Davey Turtle Eldridge up front has caused a lot of issues.
He had a good game that Friday night too.
Yeah, put a lot of pressure. He's physical enough. He can go through. He's got enough speed to get around the edge. I think he's done a phenomenal job all year. And then offense, I think it feels like everyone had a different game. Yeah. There's games where Hunter had a phenomenal game. There's games Jalen Moore had a great game. CJ, Riley, Darrell Page. In conference, Darrell's, the scoring leader by 34 points, in conference. No one came close to him. So, he was able to do some things. And he did a little bit against East, but not much, where I think Riley really took over in that game. But then, he had deep balls to Jalen Moore, made some great catches. And Hunter Cruz really, throughout the whole game, was very reliable and made some huge catches for us. You always want to point at the guy who touches the ball all the time for that. But I think up front is where our offense has started and been. If we don't have those guys up there, we don't have the time to throw. We don't have the holes for the running back and Riley to run through. I think those guys up front have really been what has set us apart and has gotten us better every week. And them flowing in unison is a pretty thing, and they've been rolling for a little bit right now.
Anything else, Mark? I know we both want to ask the question, but I don't know who wants to ask it. Do you want to ask it? Do you want me to ask it?
How do you keep them? Your kids, they're smart kids. They've seen these brackets. They know what's out there after first week. How do you keep them focused on this Friday night as opposed to next Friday night?
That's why Mark is the writer here on the panel, because he phrased it a beautiful way where he didn't have to say specific school names. And that chef's kiss. That was fantastic, Mark.
We haven't even talked about playing them next week. It's been everything with Cuthbertson and just focusing everything we do on that. And I think that's important, of just them understanding we got to get through one game before we worry about two. And it was the same thing in conference. We're playing who was it, Reynolds before. We can't play East without playing Reynolds at that moment. We can't look past people. We have to take the opportunity we have right now and make the most of it for the team we're playing.
Well done. That was a very good answer, because I think that's the one thing we're sitting there looking at the brackets and we're just like, did the state do that on purpose? Because we just saw before, and they want to see it again. It's like, none of us want this. None of us really want that to happen. But if it goes down, it goes down. So we've got Coach Honeycutt in the green room in the back. We're going to let Coach Wallace go so he can get kids to the cafeteria or
finish painting.
Oh, painting. Okay.
I had to run in to do this and go back on out.
Well, we always appreciate you stopping by, and we look forward to seeing you Titans Talk on Monday.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, so that's Kevin Wallace. There he goes. We'll bring in Walkertown head coach Tripp Honeycutt, first year at Walkertown. What's going on, Coach Honeycutt? Your squad 7-3. You came in from South Davidson and basically took a program where, I'm not going to lie, before you arrived, they kind of were falling into like a feeder program type of status where they would have kids there for a while and then they would kind of go off to other schools or whatever in the area. It feels like they're kind of building something there culture-wise. We've been kind of playing internet tag all year trying to get you on the show and trying to figure out the best time and everything. We finally got it worked out. I'm so glad to get you on. What's up, man? How's it going preparing these kids for the first week of the playoffs?
It's good, man. I mean, they are extremely excited to have a home football game. And that was one of the main goals beginning of the year, is to have a home playoff football game. And you can tell they were pushing for that. And once they kind of realized that was a possibility midway through conference, man, it kind of kept motivating them, getting us to the spot where we are right now. And like you said, yeah, when I got the job in January, it was easy to see that there was talent in the room and that we could build something from the ground up, and just happy to be where we are right now. But I'm not done with this senior group quite yet. I look forward to having a couple more weeks, many as they'll let us have. So excited about it.
Does the T stand for Tripp or Tennessee? Is that
it's Tennessee. Yeah, my dad's from Tennessee, so we've been Tennessee fans.
Yeah. Well, I know about your guys, but tell some of the people that might be listening. Tell me about the group. Especially Mitron and Cam, kind of been the leaders on offense for you.
Yeah, I mean,
seen out of Surrey Central on film.
Yeah. So like you said, Mitron Curry and Cam Kelly are two senior leaders. Mitron plays a lot of both sides of the football, receiver and corner. And to be honest, if I wouldn't give him the ball to Cam Kelly 25, 30 times a game, he'd be playing a lot more defense as well. Early in the year, he was playing a lot of safety for us. And I think after those first couple of weeks, our defensive staff realized, man, we're going to be leaning on him a lot. So trying to get him off the field when we can. Not saying he won't play defense, because he still can, but when the time's right. But Surrey Central, man, they play extremely, extremely hard. That's the first thing I noticed when I got the film was you see a lot of, on defense, 11 hats in the picture. They get to the football. They force turnovers in big games this year that help them win football games. And that's just a well-coached football team. Coach Southern does a great job there. And you can tell they really buy into what he's doing offensively and defensively. I think he put something on Twitter about like the third time in the history of their school they're over 500. And you can tell why. Like I can see on film just how bought in, like I said, to the culture and doing what he's asked them to do. So a really good football team, and we gotta be ready to roll Friday night.
So Surrey Central, they are 6-4 overall. They were 4-2 in their conference. They're 1-4 on the road. So that was something that stuck out to me. They've scored 305 points this year. They've allowed 281. So they're having some close games. Basically, it feels like when they get out there. Walkertown 7-3. You guys are 3-2 at home. You're in the same conference as Reedsville, the monster up a little bit further north from you guys. And you guys had a good game versus them earlier this year. I noticed looking at the bracket, they're kind of lurking in there too, in terms of if you get a couple rounds ahead, you might get a rematch versus that foe. Tell me the biggest thing you've learned about coming to Walkertown and playing in that conference, where you had a number of schools that they're actually pretty good in the Mid-State 2A this year. Weds finished actually second in conference play, and North Forsyth just barely missed the playoffs themselves, right there underneath you guys. But tell me what it was like leaving South Davidson and coming up here and joining this conference where, if I'm not mistaken, going into that Reedsville game, you guys were undefeated, weren't you not?
We lost to North Davidson by one non-conference.
Yeah.
But obviously when you get the job and like you said, Reedsville's in the conference, and I knew about Reedsville. I had never coached against Reedsville, never played against Reedsville as a player, so I had never been to their school or anything like that. So it's starting to learn their tradition, but also understanding that when we played them that week, we were 6-1, they were 7-0, and our kids fully believed that we were going to win the football game. And at halftime, we were winning the football game. And the second half, we just got wore down a little bit, and that was, something that we need to work on if the time does come again where we play them guys, about trying to shorten the game up a little bit offensively and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's very exciting to be here, and the conference is extremely deep. I mean, North Forsyth, Andrews, there's a lot of good football teams in our conference, not just West Oaks and Reedsville. So going week in and week out, getting our kids ready to play and understanding that, we started the season strong. We had some big wins early on, but we aren't where we want to be yet. And the only way we can do that is by playing late in November. And that's what our goal has been. We don't want to just get here. We want to take the next step. And it sounds kind of crazy going into a situation where they didn't make the playoffs last year. And now that's our goal. But the talent is in the room. We have coaches that show up every day and get to work. And if we take care of the ball, take care of ourselves, I think we can make a run.
And that 7-3 record, I mean, it's kind of deceiving because you lost to North Davidson on the last play of the game. And then you were telling me last week you had the field goal was blocked at the end of the Westburg game that would have won it for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were close to being 9-1 this year.
With the only loss to Reedsville. So definitely a great regular season for you guys going in. I broke my rule with you, Coach Honeycutt, because normally we only do 4A schools on Tobacco Road. And
I appreciate it.
I kept seeing Walkertown out of the corner of my eye all year. I'm like, what is going on in Walkertown? Because normally that week 3, week 4, when like the entire Triad's on a bye, the past couple of years we've gone to Walkertown if they're at home. We've done that game as our game of the week on WTOB because you guys are actually playing during that week. I think last year, they were playing North Davidson, if I'm not mistaken. And we did that game. And this year y'all were on the road during that week, so we didn't go, and we just took the bye week ourselves. But there's been some whispers that we should come to Walkertown and try to put together a sports network for you guys, because you guys actually have a pretty good basketball program as well. And you kind of check all the boxes I look for in terms of, we don't just go out and grab any school. We have to actually have certain things to make it work more than just a year. You know, you got to have multiple programs that are good in their sports. They look like they might be good more than just a year. You have community around you that supports you. That sometimes someone's better if it's like a community off to itself, like Forsyth and Clemens, or East kind of has Kernersville. They're kind of sharing it with Glenn, Grimsley, Greensboro, that kind of thing. With Walkertown, it's Walkertown. It's a community amongst itself. And now you're starting to build it where they've been there long enough. I think Walkertown's been there like 10 years now, if I'm not mistaken. My niece graduated
12,
from there.
something like that.
Yeah, so they've got alumni now that's kind of out there doing the stuff. And that's the thing, too. The thing I know is because I grew up in that area, that school, the middle school is in it, like right now.
Yes.
But you can tell from the size of it when they built that high school that they are not planning on staying a 2A school. Like eventually down the road, as Walkertown grows as a community with the loop coming through there, they're going to be a 3A or whatever the classification is going to be next year. I'm actually curious to see where they place you guys next year. And they're going to build a middle school on the grounds of the old middle school eventually anyway. And that whole building is going to be the high school. So I don't know if people are aware of that, what's going on with Walkertown and the growth out there, but definitely need to set up something with you and your AD and your men's basketball coach and sit down and see if it's something possibility for next year. But I'm really excited about the growth and the success you guys are having there. What's the thing that you're telling your kids to get, the number one thing to keep your kids prepped as they get ready for this matchup? Because previous years, some of these kids on these teams at Walkertown, if they did make the playoffs, maybe they didn't have expectations of going beyond the first round. I feel like this year's a little bit different with the senior class you have. What's the stuff that you're telling them to keep them motivated?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to keep it a week-by-week basis, because similar to, like, I just saw you talking to Coach Wallace, similar to him where they've got East Forsyth looming in week 2. We've got Salisbury looming. We've already played them, and so trying to keep them on this week and trying to take care of business this Friday and not worry about going back down to Salisbury next Friday. But we've had some really good practices this week. The kids are extremely, extremely excited about what we're doing. A lot of them actually play basketball. 3 or 4 of my guys play basketball, and they have this kind of like funny little thing where like, we don't want to play basketball yet. We want to keep playing football. And I'm like, that's, as a football coach, that's what you want to hear. Like, we don't want to go to basketball yet. I can't wait to watch y'all play, but right now let's keep focused on football. So just trying to keep them locked in and having fun a little bit. Like they're in a different situation than they've been. Like, being the favorite going into a playoff game, playing a home football game, trying to keep it light a little bit too. Like, yeah, we're going to be focused, but enjoy it. Like, enjoy the moment, have fun with it. Understand that the work you put in for the past 9 months is why you're here where you are. So just trying to make sure they can kind of live in the moment a little bit as well.
That is that game is at 7:00. Walkertown 7-3 hosting Surrey Central, the first round of the 2A West Region football state playoffs here in North Carolina. It's a 7:00 kickoff. Get out to Walkertown, watch that matchup. root for the Wolfpack to advance. And we'll keep up with you guys throughout the season as well. We've got Coach Westburg sitting in the green room chilling, so we're going to bring him out in just a bit here as well. Marc, anything you wanted to give the Tripp before we get him out of here?
Fun things happening out there under Coach Honeycutt. It's good to see. I've been out there a few times to see it, and it's just a lot of energy out there surrounding the football team, and it's kind of the similar energy that I've felt from the basketball program with Richard Daniels the last few years I've been over there. So it's good to see that.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good stuff. That's Tripp Honeycutt from the Walkertown Wolfpack, head football coach over there, 7-3, going to be taking on Surrey Central on Friday. We'll keep up with you, and I'll definitely be in touch with you and your AD real soon about the stuff we were talking about earlier.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Good luck Friday, Tripp.
There he goes. That's Tripp Honeycutt, head coach for Walkertown. And bringing on to the stage, he is the head coach of Northern Guilford, another school that we're keeping an eye on in terms of maybe giving a sports network to here in the future. It is head coach Erik Westburg in the house. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Man, it is a busy Wednesday. Usually we don't stack coaches up like this. I'm thinking we might try it again next week with, kind of like a round robin and the ones that are still remaining, keep them going. But got a chance to see for the first time, probably about 2 years, last week at Titans Talk when you and Coach Honeycutt surprised Coach Wallace on the show. JP set that up. Talk about the relationship the three of you guys have, because I didn't realize that you guys had all, I guess, coached with each other or with each other. What's the dynamic here between you and Coach Honeycutt and head coach Wallace?
I mean, you're going back to 2011. I think was Coach Honeycutt's first year. He was a freshman at Greensboro College. Coach Wallace and I coached together a year before that at Newport News Apprentice School in 2010. So that's where we first kind of hooked up and became friends.
Wow.
And I ended up coming down to Greensboro, got the Greensboro job that spring. That summer, we needed an O-line coach. And I told our head coach at the time, Coach Hunt, I said, you got to hire this guy, Coach Wallace. And he hired him. And we were at Greensboro together for, 4 seasons total. And Coach Honeycutt was a player for those 4 years. He was a tight end for us. So, and then Coach Honeycutt went on, graduated. Coach Wallace went to Glenn. I stayed at Greensboro for one more season. And then I know Coach Honeycutt coached for Coach Wallace at Glenn when he was an assistant there. And then Coach Honeycutt came over and coached at Northern for a couple seasons with us. He was my offensive coordinator. So, so it kind of went full circle. Really excited to see Tripp doing well. Good football coach, comes from a great family. And I know me and Coach Wallace are really proud of him.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that it went back that far. And I could tell watching you guys on the stage interact with each other, there's a genuine bond and friendship between the three of you guys, going through the gauntlet, multiple times, different schools, different parts of the state. You guys had a breakthrough year this season, 9-1 overall in the Metro 4A. And the Metro was actually a lot tougher this year than previous years. Just looking at the standings, of course, Grimsley undefeated, the number 1 overall seed in the West 4A. You guys right behind them, and you guys had that game with them, the regular season finale that Grimsley pulled away from you guys in the second half. But just looking at the rest of that conference, you guys, Grimsley, Northwest Guilford finished 8-2. Southeast Guilford's in the playoffs. They finished 6-4. Page made the playoffs. They're 3-7. I want to say Ragsdale and Western both made it too. Did they not? So your whole conference made it except for Southwest Guilford?
Yeah, except for Southwest. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. We're pretty proud of that, to be honest with you. You know, says a lot about our conference. It actually helped us out tremendously. Getting the 10 seed, it helped our RPI. And that's why we got that 10 seed, which is really good seed for us.
Yeah, because we were looking at the RPI going into that final week, because we were like the two games we had East Forsyth, West Forsyth, and we had Grimsley and Northern Guilford, and we were looking at your game in particular because I think you guys were like number 3 in RPI going into that game or something. Yeah. And I think we were looking at the winner that would probably end up being the 1 seed. They were probably Todd Weddington. Yeah. So and that's kind of what happened. So that's nuts. Marc, what do you got for Coach Westburg here? Because you guys are. I don't want to say you're sneaky because you're 9-1. It feels weird to be like, you're a sneaky good team here, Northern Guilford. No. Northern Guilford's got a little name brand recognition. You guys got some hardware. You're 9-1. You only lost to Grimsley. Grimsley hasn't lost a Metro game since like 2019 or something. So it's nothing to hang your head over. You might see him again. So, I mean, Marc, what do you got here?
quietly 9-1 is probably because of all the shine that Grimsley gets from their success the last several years. But this is the best season you've had, correct, Erik?
3 years ago, we were in the same situation. We were 9-1. Our first year in the Metro, in 2000, I guess it was 22. That fall, we were 9-1.
When they switched it,
yeah, it was our first year in the new realignment. Same thing happened. We lost to Grimsley here for the conference championship that season, and then we had a first round game here against Lake Norman. We ended up losing by a score. So. So we've been in this position before, different team, but I guess I've been in this position before. So, but a good way to finish the realignment, going out 9-1, and setting ourselves up with a home playoff game. And it just really shows what kind of team we are. There's not one star on this team. We play together. We got unselfish kids that work extremely hard. And they're a fun group to be around, and we worked really hard to get to this point. We won 4 games last year. A lot of these guys played as sophomores and juniors, and we lost 4 games by 1 score. So we were close to our record having 7-8 wins as compared to 4 wins, and we took that into the off season. We knew we had to work on some things, accountability, holding each other accountable. Being good teammates, and we really did a good job of that. We got stronger, we got bigger, we got faster as well. My hat's off to the guys here. They did a phenomenal job with that. We did a lot of team bonding stuff. We went to Wingate camp, and it's paid off, and that's why we're where we're at.
What have you seen out of West Cabarrus, your first round opponent?
I think they're a really good coach team. Coach Hitson does a really good job down there. They got some weapons. They got a good running back, quarterback, which I heard he's out. I'm not sure. We'll see when we line up on Friday night. You never know. They got some big guys up front defensively. They're good in the back end. So, I think they're a sneaky team as well. I think they were 5-5 is what their record is, but they played a pretty good conference as well. So, it's not going to be an easy task Friday night.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at this West Cabarrus team. You're right. They're pretty sneaky. They're 5-5. They it looks like they basically kind of keep it on the ground. They try to run the ball and do what they can. But you mentioned something earlier in this interview that I wasn't even thinking about, and it's kind of the back of all of our heads. Reclassification's happening next year. Do you have an idea of where Northern Guilford might get placed in this new 8-class classification? And are there certain schools that you'd like to come with you in whatever new conference may be there, like, rivals or things of that sort? Because we're kind of starting to fill in the blanks. I think the ADMs are due like today, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the population numbers or whatever. And sure. Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This time it's just straight population, right? It's not that wacky formula with the free lunches and all that stuff that was going on or whatever.
And that's how we got put in the 4A. By ADM numbers, we're a 3A school.
Yeah.
And
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Table, we're kind of in the same boat with it.
See, and I look at it like Dudley. Like I look at Dudley, you are a 4A school and you're in 3A. Like that's how I look. Every time I see him, like you're overclassed or underclassed.
Which is funny is our ADM numbers are lower than Dudley's ADM numbers. So they have higher enrollment than we do, and they're in 3A and we're in 4A.
Yeah. See what's going on.
Exactly. And it went back to your point, the free and reduced lunch, and how well your other sports do, and it put us. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, how many kids do you have? Like that's all.
That's how it should be. Exactly.
Yeah. So, are there schools nearby that like you or rivals, like traditional rivals for Northern that you hope either you guys can continue those rivalries with next year or conference with next year?
I think and I know our ADs have talked. Northwest has always been our big rival. And regardless of what happens with the realignment, we most likely won't be in the same conference because of ADM numbers.
I think there'll be 8A, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there'll be 8A. We're projected to be 6A. And I think we're going to keep that rival together. We'll play each other every year. So that's definitely a lock. After that, it kind of depends on how many teams you have in your conference. So how many, where you're looking for non-conference games. So based on the RPI, you do want to play good schools, So there's always the Grimsley, the Pages, those type of schools that you probably want to still play to help your RPI out and, play some good competition. I think Southeast is probably going to be in our 6A classification. That's a local school. Ragsville possibly. Eastern Guilford, that'd be another one. So
Dudley.
Dudley's going to be probably 6A as well. So there's enough schools in this county to have our own conference. And so.
Yeah, and it does seem like the higher ones, like the 8A, 7A, I think the only 8A schools in the area would be like West Forsyth, Reagan, and Northwest Guilford. Yeah, and I've seen markups where it'd be some kind of like a split 8A, 7A thing where you have those three plus like East Forsyth, Grimsley, I think Page.
It's a heck of a conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like then you're gonna have these other ones where, because I remember before reclassification when East was in that conference where they didn't see West Forsyth every year, so they scheduled it that third week, that Labor Day weekend,
right?
And that was that third non-conference game. It'd be East Forsyth, West Forsyth, and a lot of other schools were doing the same thing. East played Grimsley the same way because they weren't in conference together anymore, and they'd been in the Metro forever back in the day, like when I was in high school in the 90s, and the Metro back then was across 5 counties, I think. Like South Stokes was in our conference. Carver was in our conference. Dudley, Smith, Page, Grimsley, Burlington Williams was in our conference. So like it literally stretched from Stokes County all the way to Alamance County.
That is spread out.
Yeah, it was crazy. I still have vivid memories of Brendan Haywood dunking on my friend in 1996 in a Dudley East Forsyth basketball game over on Dudley's campus. But yeah, Dudley's in a weird spot because Dudley has they're like the 11 seed or something like that, and they're 3A, but they're clearly one of the top 3 schools in that whole bracket. So like they do this every year, and they're just going to motor through and get to whatever. But you guys have won state championships before. Are your kids aware of, because Northern Guilford's not exactly an old school in comparison to Grimsley's been there 100 years or whatever, Page has been there forever. Have you talked about that with your kids in terms of when you came into the program knowing that you guys had hardware from before? You're not a school that's never been there before. Have you guys talked about that in terms of like tradition and trying to be that next squad, or do you guys not pay attention to that kind of stuff?
No, well, this is my 9th year here. So when I first got here, that was definitely talked about all the time, because it was still close enough to the last state championship when I first got here. So it was more talked about then. I think our kids understand the history that we currently have now. But again, it's not talked about every day, but the expectations are there. We want to be in the postseason, and we want to be playing. We want to be practicing on Thanksgiving, and that's kind of our goal.
Marc, you got anything before we get Coach Westburg out?
I'm curious if the Friday night post-game gatherings are still active, Coach. I had the pleasure to participate in one of those a few years ago.
Wait, now what? What's going on?
Back in the day when Wallace was still at Northwest Guilford, the 2 coaching staffs would meet up after games on Friday nights.
Okay. I think I've heard about this. Yeah.
It doesn't get crazy, Desmond. It's not like Marc, you got Marc in here. Marc and I and Coach Wallace go way back as well. Marc used to cover us on a regular basis, and I remember vividly. I would drive in Sunday mornings because we meet as a staff Sunday morning, and Marc would be doing the interview from Friday night as I'm driving in, and it was actually I actually look forward to those interviews every week because Marc knew what he was doing. Could follow the game, had great questions, and anyway, so that's how I got to know Marc pretty well, and he did partake in one of the evenings with us after one of our games. So yes, we do. Try to get up with Coach Wallace. I know he's coming from West Forsyth. He still lives in Guilford County, so
he's got kids. Does he still come out to these things?
He does. He does at times. Yeah, he does at times. Yeah, so. We like to get a bite to eat after the game as a coaching staff, and because you're still wired a little bit, you can't just go home and turn it off.
That's the truth. I'll call a game and I'll get home around 11 if I'm lucky, and I'm not in bed till 2:30, 3 in the morning because I'm just still wired from calling whatever football game, especially if it was a tight game or a close game, and you're kind of screaming and hollering at the very end. It takes a long time to kind of come down from that kind of thing, like heart race and everything else. I was just telling Coach Honeycutt from Walkertown that things started swirling that maybe we should come to Walkertown, maybe start putting together a sports network similar to Northern Guilford. You guys kind of check off a lot of the boxes that we look for in terms of schools. And I guess I need to throw away my whole, I only do 4A since we're reclassifying and everybody's going to be all over the place anyway. But you guys have been on our radar for a couple of years now, and you guys check off a lot of the boxes. You're pretty consistent in football every year. Your basketball programs are pretty sound. You have a community around you in terms of that Summerfield, Oak Ridge, Stokesdale area out there that you guys share with Northwest Guilford in terms of pulling kids. And I guess you kind of pull from the other direction too, then, huh? Like Northeast Guilford, I guess, or is that too far?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, close to Northeast as well.
So you're kind of pulling from both ways. Yeah,
both ends. Yeah, that's why they built Northern. It kind of sits right in the middle between Northwest and Northeast. So
okay. So you check off a lot of those boxes. So definitely want to set up something with you and your AD and get some stuff going. Because I know the community out there would love to have access to your games and the basketball in particular out there, and the campus is beautiful. I've been out there multiple times.
Yeah, 100%. Our community would love that. We got great community support here, and I already talked to our AD about it. He's going to give you a call. So we're definitely in moving forward in the future to have a partnership with you guys.
Hey, you guys heard it. There you have it. Northern Guilford's going to be. No, I'm not going to. We're working on it. We're working on it. So there you go. That's Northern Guilford. That is give me a kickoff time here. That is my thing throws 7:30 kickoff. Guilford County is always kicking off at 7:30. Forsyth County usually kicks off at 7. So that game will be. I'm sorry, my thing froze here. You said 7, 7:30. So you guys are 7:30. It's at Northern Guilford. Definitely go check that out if you're out in that community. Summerfield, Stokesdale, Oak Ridge. That area right there, especially surrounding that school, there's a lot of good football going on up that way between you guys and Northwest Guilford, and both are going to be active. And who knows, maybe see each other again. The way these Western 4A playoffs are set up, I told Coach Wallace earlier in the show when he was on, I came across some kind of graphic that said that it was ranking like the top 10 hardest state playoff brackets to go through, and the West 4A North Carolina was number 10, like in the country, like in terms of just gauntlet. Like there's no when it was 8 classifications before when they had the subdivisions. You kind of, if you were really good that first week, if you didn't get a bye, you might have got a bye anyway because you were probably playing a team that was like 3-7 or something, and they're just happy to be there. And it's kind of a warm up, like let's get lathered up type game. And then you probably saw somebody round 2, like usually it'd be like somebody from your conference, and go like that. That's not the case anymore. Like it starts off like boom, let's go.
I mean, you could use East Forsyth, for example. They don't, Yeah, exactly. It's Butler, and East had, undefeated season, so that's a tough. It just shows, like, to your point, it just shows how competitive the 4A West is. And
if they win, they probably play West again. And we just went through that like 2 weeks ago. Like I literally just had heart palpitations from covering that game.
Coach Wallace did too. So
I don't think anybody wants that really. I got talking to Coach Willard. I don't think anybody wants to see each other again, especially that early. But really ever. Like I don't think they really want to cross paths again.
That'd be like us trying to play Grims again next week.
Right? Yeah.
You're still coming down from that high.
It's just the way the West is. It's just chock full. And really, honestly, to me, Charlotte's kind of down a little bit this year. There's no Chambers in there. No Audrey Kell is in there, I don't believe. It's been Huff and Weddington pretty much coming out of the 704 pretty much all year. Independence still kind of robbed that way from last year when they went on that run. Sure. But really, it's Weddington, the defending state champs, undefeated, and Huff, who's never made it to the state championship, but they're always around, and they've got a pretty good defense. But a lot of it feels like it's up here this year. You guys with one loss. East undefeated. West Forsyth had a good year. Northwest Guilford had a good year. Grimsley's the number 1 overall seed in the West. Like there's a lot of Mount Tabor, and they're playing Independence round 1. Like
exactly. Exactly.
What are we doing? Like it's crazy. That seems like a 3rd round matchup, but we're gonna get it here in round 1. But any part words for Nighthawk Nation, Coach Westburg, as you guys get ready for this Friday night first round?
We're excited for Friday night. We're ready to get after it. We're playing a tough opponent, and we'll see what happens. But we've had a good week of practice. The kids are fired up, and it's playoff time, so it's exciting.
JP Mundy checking in from wherever he is in the Triad, looking at purple triple on somebody.
Queued up for Friday night.
Run that wishbone, that triple option. JP will be actually covering the West Forsyth game. He'll be out there for Tobacco Road doing that one. And depending on how long you're in the thing, I'm pretty sure our paths are going to cross again too, Coach. So definitely looking forward to seeing you guys. Good luck on Friday. Awesome. Again, Tobacco Road will have 3 games Friday night live, opening up the first round of the football playoffs here in North Carolina. And just good luck. Hope you guys win and move on. I'm wishing all the 336 teams well. And just going forward, we're here. We're finally here. Like, it doesn't feel like it took very long to get here. It feels like the season just started like 3 weeks ago, but that's how it goes down in high school football. But we got to get out of here. I've kept Marc way too long. He's probably got something else he's got to go take care of. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here. New episode Friday. Arlo Bynum will be in the house talking about Carolina hoops. We'll have Steve Wiseman from the Durham Herald Sun coming in talking about Duke hoops. Spencer Turkin will be in talking about A&T hoops. It's a huge college basketball Friday edition. Catch us there, and then you can catch the high school football action a little bit later on in the day. We got to get out of here. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.